this clip we're going to look at choux pastry, its production method and the science behind it. Choux pastry is made with water, butter, sometimes salt and sugar, hard flour and the addition of eggs. In the next clip we're going to look at the production of choux pastry and also discuss the food science which underpins the production. The process starts by placing unsalted butter and water into a pot. It's important to have the butter die small so that the water doesn't evaporate during the boiling process. So we bring it to the boil and we take it off the heat and we add hard flour to it. It's stirred until it comes together and returned to the heat and cooked out. This is an important process because what we're actually doing here is we're actually allowing the starch to absorb all of the moisture in that gelatinization process. So once all the starch has absorbed the moisture, or in this case being the water, it's then ready to add the eggs to it. It's important to cool down the base so that when we add the eggs we don't actually overcook them. It's important because we need the raw egg and the moisture from the raw egg later on to create the steam and in turn the lift which occurs within the choux pastry. It's also important during this process that we beat the mixture thoroughly with the addition of each egg. As we do that we capture some small pockets of air also within the dough. So in this case the pastry or the dough is actually risen through this air which is captured in the beating process and also with the addition of the steam which comes out of the egg during the baking process. A general rule that the pastry is ready is when it drops off the end of a spoon. So if we look here you'll notice that it's coming off in a teardrop shape. That's usually a good indicator. Okay, so now that we've made our base dough it's time to pipe it out. It's usually piped onto a silicon mat or a baking tray and then placed into a hot oven around the 220 degree mark. This is where the food science starts to kick in. The intense heat from the oven sets the exterior of the pastry. Now inside the pastry, that moisture from the egg is starting to heat up. What happens is that this moisture converts to steam and expands and blows and puffs up the pastry. Now this is a crucial stage during the making and preparation of choux pastry because if we were to open the oven at this stage, the steam inside of the choux bun would condense and turn back to moisture and in turn the pastry would collapse. So once the pastry is turned to a golden brown, we normally turn down the oven temperature and slowly start the process of drying out the pastries. This is really crucial. If we were to continue to have the oven at 220, it would actually burn the pastry and it would have or even have a particularly eggy taste about it. So the drying out process enables the exterior of the pastry to become crisp, which means that later on, once they are fully cooked, we can actually cut them in half and fill them with various products like creme pâtissière or cream. Next I've got a series of faults which are often associated with choux pastry and some of the ways that these can be prevented or remedied. So let's look at three classic faults associated with choux pastry. The first of these is that the pastry doesn't actually rise. This is most likely the result of there not being enough air incorporated into the pastry, or that the egg was added to the base mixture when it was too hot, which in turn coagulated or cooked the eggs and prevented there being sufficient steam to later on rise the dough. So it's really important that our panada or base is cool before we add the egg mixture. The second fault is that the pastry doesn't become crisp at any stage. It's most likely that a result of the mixture being too moist or the oven not hot enough, or even that you haven't cooked them for a sufficient amount of time. So in this sort of situation it's important that we actually allow the pastry to dry out and cook before taking it out of the oven. The third fault, which is again another common fault, is that when we split open the pastry there appears to be no holes or cavity inside to fill it with cream or the likes. The most likely cause of this is that there's insufficient air being incorporated into the mixture, or that the mixture was too stiff, which means effectively not enough egg was added to it to allow the mixture to balloon up and rise during the process. So again, it's really important to beat the mixture and to ensure that it's soft enough through the addition of egg to enable it to rise.